Listen up, Rangers. Welcome to the Geek Chest. My name's Steve, and today in this sort of how-to, this guy took forever. So we're going to be kind of like the Godzilla video. We'll have progress photos of what I sent over while working on this guy. But was definitely quite a bit. As you can see, what this used to be was a 24-inch NECA 2014. And we already kind of did this previously on the channel. Now, you'll notice one key difference here is it's definitely a lot more elaborately painted. Repainted the entire thing to look more like how he did in the Godzilla vs. Kong. Plus, all these spines were all custom made. These are all 3D printed. Good friend Tom contacted me, wanted to get this done. Wanted to redo this Godzilla, but he was actually sculpting all the spines himself. So he sent me the files over, and we 3D printed them all. Now, fun fact, when you're 3D printing, make sure you get the scales right the first time so that you're not reprinting them up to three times sometimes to get the right size. And then a lot of it, too, was just kind of just figuring out where the adjustments were for this. So, starting from the get-go, I had to use my 3D printer. We printed out all the spines. We did them in originally a translucent blue. As you can see here, it's not the blue anymore. Decided towards the end that just to make them darken in so that it looks more like how it does in the movie. Instead of, well, more like 2014 is what we were emulating for this. And not really Godzilla vs. Kong. And then added the dark grays and browns over top of it. But had to chop off the spines originally, then 3D printed these, sat them on the backs, glued them in. But sometimes during the process, had to cut the dorsal plates back off, kind of shift them around, give them in the right position, because they might not be sitting 100% how they're supposed to be, but this is the best way it could sit for the articulation, because definitely wanted to still keep this guy being able to move around, you know, without snapping off anything. So after that, get everything set, and then this section here, I resculpted the entire thing. So glued these on, put some epoxy putty down, and redid the back section here, coming along to the butt of the tail. You'll see on the back here, redid all that, and all this was just to hide the base of the 3D prints and make it look more organic. And then bring it around. You can see it here on this side too. It does come a little bit under the neck. You can still kind of rotate that side to side, but it does bump a little bit into the plates, so one thing to be concerned about. And then for the other thing I did with sculpting was for the teeth here. Initially put these on, glued them in, and had them kind of just filled in, but left the teeth alone. Decided to, after the fact, we just chopped the entire thing off, and I redid each of these teeth. What these are is the pointed bits on the 3D printing stands. I chopped off the little end pieces that looked pretty good. And then redid the entire mouth section. You also notice his eyes are a little smaller. Added some epoxy putty and resculpted the eyes there. And you can see on this side here. And then I added some extra cuts to the face. So he's got a little bit more detailing in certain sections. Highlighted some of the lines. This was all using a soldering iron to make a lot more of the details pop. And then, this guy's heavy. And then moving on to the actual paint job. So, the one fun thing that I did with this guy is for the initial base coat, did it in a base gray. I just went over with acrylic paints. Works the easiest for me. I know there is some spray paints, like there's like vinyl spray paint you can use that doesn't tack up here. But I've had too many issues with it, and gray acrylic paints do just fine for me. And even for the most part, it'll still help to highlight the seams. It kind of rubs off a little easy if you're not too careful with it. But it does enough to kind of make everything mute color. I have had really good luck with it. So we did it in gray. But what I did was I added sand to the paint. And what that did is it gave it more of a gritty texture. So you'll see in the paint, it's actually lifted up in a lot more spots originally. You can see it kind of on the face here. One of the nice areas is like in between the legs here. You'll notice there's a lot more bumps than what's on the original figure. And what we're trying to do with that is just kind of make them look a little bit more gritty and not as smooth as the original model is. You'll see there's still going to be a little bit of a shine coming off of it even after I sealed it with a matte finish, just because smooth plates plus sealer, it's going to reflect off the lighting a little bit. Not as drastic as it originally was with the NECA, but still, it's still going to be a thing nonetheless. And then did a lot of dry brushing. Started with the stomach here. Did this, and it was a burnt orange. So it's like a reddish orange was the first. And then kind of progressively lighten it up to this more sand color for the top section, and especially in between the thighs here, which comes up to the base of his neck. Even got a little bit right underneath the chin. If you pose his chin up a bit, you'll see it's kind of poking there. I didn't want to go too high because I didn't want it to show up in the mouth, but I also didn't want the inside of the mouth to show up there. And then for the rest of the kaiju was done in a dark gray. And then I slowly started dry brushing kind of the same colorings I did there with the burnt umber and the more sand color, but I just kind of went lighter with my dry brushing as I went. But left some of the parts still gray, because you'll see when looking at them, the fronts where it's a little bit more plated was a little bit more darker looking on the kaiju. Same with like on the inner parts of the arms. I left those alone. Then for the dorsal spines, just like I mentioned, went over this with, it was initially blacks because I was trying to keep it, I wanted the blues to pop a little bit better, and they definitely look a lot better with darker colors, but he requested I lighten them up. So added the same grays and tried to blend it in with the skin color as much as possible, but kept some dark edges here and there just to give the illumination something to kind of grasp onto. So it's not going to be super mute when looking at yourself, because you don't want it to blend too much with everything, because otherwise it's not going to really stand out. And then you can see even here for the tail. Comes all the way to the tippy tips. And then finally for the nails are just done in the black. Kept them more kind of like hooves, because you'll see here it's still got the original feet that the kaiju had, because to be honest, I kind of like these feet a little bit better. I thought the more elephantile look was really good. That, and he didn't want it to adjust them either. And then kept the paint job relatively the same for those, but added some grays just make it look more bird-like or hoof-like, and did the same thing for the nails on the claws. But as you'll see, I'm kind of sliding on this table. Thankfully, the clear coat did its job, and the paint is not scuffing off, which is good to see. And overall, super pleased with it. Oh yeah, also the eyes turned out really good. You guys can see them. Oh, some close-up pictures. But I also added a little bit of super glue over top of the eyes to give them a little bit of a shine. Also did the same thing for the inside of the mouth. And then sealed it up with a flat finish. A lot of that was just to knock down a lot of the super glue I used to keep the paint from rubbing off where the joints come into contact. I can't 100% guarantee it won't rub off, but it definitely helps. I use a mix of water and Mod Podge, flat Mod Podge to be exact, because again, works really well for me because I've tried to use a bunch of different primers, and I always have some issue, especially with softer bits. The hands and the head and parts of the feet would have been, and the tail too, would have been issues for me using a lot of like the spray can primers. I know there is some, but it's just easier for me to use that little concoction, and definitely helps to keep the paint nice and sealed and doesn't leave a real glossy finish over top of it too. But anyways, super pleased with the end result, and I'll be going out to Tom here in the near future. Also, Tom's making something for the channel, so look forward to that video too. Gonna have a fun little 3D printed, I'm just gonna say it's a vehicle, so look forward to that. You could say it kind of pertains to our other channel if you look at the title. So those are the hints currently. That'll be up on here as a video, and then will also be made available for sale. So we're going to see how that goes, and then kind of go from there. Because if it does really well, then we'll do some more vehicles. If it doesn't do that well, it was a fun one-off. But anyways, help us defeat those kaijus by hitting that like button, subscribe, become a ranger today. We also got Instagram, Patreon, Pinterest, and Facebook. Guys, like to keep up to date with the channel, donate. We greatly appreciate it. And we'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.